One of Wall Street's legendary investors, Jim Rogers, who's chief executive of Rogers Holdings, and says that is precisely what we should be bracing for, meaning the recession, not the job creation, although we should be so lucky to be bracing for job creation. Jim, walk us through your logic.
I am delighted to see you, Dylan, and I'm very happy to hear you saying, my goodness, what are we wasting our time on some congressman about when the world is facing disaster here and abroad? We're the largest debtor nation in the history of the world, Dylan. We've got to do something about it. Greece is bankrupt. The rating agencies are right. They will not be able to pay. Somebody better be getting prepared, even if it's just the viewers of your network, getting ready to protect themselves.
Let us talk about, A, how we got into this situation, individually and collectively, and then more importantly talk about how a rational group of adults would have a serious conversation about resolving it. I've got a little connect the dots graphic series that I prepared to sort of help people understand this, which basically begins with the creation of household consumer debt in the 90s and 2000 with the authorization of the government, the Clinton administration and everybody else, and the banks say, listen, make the credit easy, get it out there, it's good for us, it's good for them. And so we created piles of household debt, piles of institutional debt. In 2008, we watched that debt reveal itself and its instability in the banking system, total collapse, bailout, money printing, we know it. So the household was not held to account, or in some cases not to account. The banks not held to account at all. And the end game is the gigantic debt bubble that was created in the household and banking systems of the world ending up in the hands of world governments, whether it's Greece or in our case, the U.S. government. If you are lending money that you never had to people that could never borrow it, and your resolution is to make it somebody else's problem, how do you begin to solve a problem like that? And can you do it without writing down the debt, Jim?
Dylan, it's astonishing to me that grown-ups can say, and in Washington they do say, the solution to too much debt and too much consumption is more debt and more consumption. No, that's not the solution to the problem. The solution to the problem is cutting spending and writing off the debt. When people are bankrupt, they're bankrupt, Dylan. Face facts. Rewrite the debt. Start over again. It's painful. Of course it's painful. It's terribly painful. But pushing this out for another decade is going to be much, much worse painful.
And when you look at history, Jim, and the amount of debt that was on the earth in the 1930s and the decision after World War II to restructure and write down debt globally, how important was that decision after World War II from the debt created in the 1930s to write down that debt? And could we have had the prosperity we had in the last century without doing that?
That's what happened. Everybody wrote off the debts. They said we made some horrible mistakes. Now let's start over. Dylan, the same thing happened in Scandinavia in the early 90s. Everybody went bankrupt. They had a horrible time, but they wrote everything off. They started over, and Scandinavia has boomed for the past 15 or 20.
Corruption and money laundering are long-standing problems in China. While those problems may not be leaving China anytime soon, the money is. A new report says corrupt officials have taken more than $120 billion out of the country.
Take the money and run. That's apparently what thousands of corrupt Chinese communist officials have been doing with their riches. As many as 18,000 officials have left China between the mid-90s and 2008. And they've taken more than $120 billion with them, according to a report released by China's central bank last week. This 67-page report, dated 2008, has now been removed from the People's Bank of China's website. It says the United States is the top destination for corrupt communist officials and their money. Australia, Canada, and Holland are also popular. These officials and employees of state-owned enterprises transfer their money out of China through offshore banking accounts or investments into things like real estate.
Whether you're hardworking or corrupt, many people are looking to shift their wealth to the US. There is a common theme. That is, there is no certainty about China's system and future, and people don't feel safe about what may unfold in the future.
China's communist regime has been eager to fight corruption, which has become the source of many social outbursts. Despite these efforts, the problems remain pervasive across the country.
Following the floods in southwest and eastern China, food prices have surged, according to state media. Rain has large areas of farmlands destroyed, reducing vegetable production by 20%. In the provincial capital of Hangzhou, prices for food went up 40%. The past few weeks of downpours, which have killed over 100 people, leaving 500,000 evacuated, caused nearly $772 million worth of damage. On Sunday, residents began returning to their homes to salvage the remains of their belongings and return to normal life. Inflating food prices have already been a recent issue for the average Chinese citizen, and these floods certainly do not alleviate the problem.
Hello everyone, welcome to Global Government News. Today is Tuesday, June 21st, 2011, and I'm Darko. Welcome back everyone, or more like welcome back to me. I had a little bit of personal business to attend to there. I initially wanted to take a break, and then it turned into having to move, and so all sorts of things, and computer problems of course, and so they're solved. So hopefully all of you have been able to unfortunately, I had to sit back and watch it, but just sit back and watch all the crap that's been going on in the past, 3 weeks now. So I've been looking forward to covering some of that. And I'm just going to plug my website here for any new listeners. It's Global Government News, and the website is www.ggnonline.com. That's ggnonline.com. I post a poll up here, and there's 2 days left to vote. It says, do you believe the recent flash mobs in Chicago are possibly false flag government provocateur events? And as of right now, we have 54% saying yes, 18% saying no, 27% saying maybe. I have a feeling that those riots in Vancouver were actually anarchists, police dressed up as fans, and they call themselves anarchists. And if you go down here, all the way down to the bottom of my website here, you can follow me on Facebook just by clicking on that button. And just once again, thank you everybody for checking in on me and seeing how I was doing, and all the support that you've been basically showing me on my DDarko 2012 YouTube channel and that, and personal messages. I really do appreciate the encouragement. Okay, I usually start off with the economy, and that's what I'm going to start off with. So world stocks rally, euro gains on Greece hopes. The global stocks rallied, and the euro jumped on Tuesday on growing optimism. Greece will stave off debt default after a late night vote in the Greek parliament, and I believe they already voted on it, and it was a vote of confidence or something. Nikkei gains 1.13% as Greece debt fears subside. Automakers rise. Then the Yuan. It says here the renminbi, or yuan, Chinese official currency, set a new high for the third day to a ratio of 6.46 yuan per US dollar on Tuesday. And then moving on to commodities, I usually go through this briefly, show you the chart here. That's back in April when you started to see a big drop. And moving on here to heating oil and gas, you have Brent crude trading at $110, down $1. And then we have heating oil futures down $4.20, natural gas futures up 71 cents, then gasoline futures down $2.89. Then moving on to agriculture, we have cocoa up $58 and coffee up 65 cents, corn up almost $20, cotton down almost 70 cents, wheat up $10, and then moving down here to precious metals, copper at $410, up $1.45, gold up $4.40, now trading at $1,546.40, and silver holding above the $30 mark at $36.37, up 30 cents. Okay, then we have oil. Oil falls on Spain concerns and spread sell-off. We'll move down here and get a brief little overview. Brent crude fell on Tuesday, dragged down by the sell-off and the spread to U.S. crude, and a warning about risk to Spain's economy that added to concerns about the Eurozone. I believe OPEC got together and said they were going to not produce, or going to hold off on producing more oil. And it says here, France warns G20 farm deal far from guaranteed. Goes here, a deal on steps to curb food price volatility between G20 agricultural ministers next week is reachable but far from guaranteed, French Farm Minister Bruno Le Maire said on Friday. Then China's farm produce prices up, says MOC. Prices for Chinese farm produce gained slightly last week, the Ministry of Commerce said on Tuesday. And it says meat prices rose from the previous week, with pork up 4.8%, beef up almost 1%, and chicken up 0.5%. Then we have Treasury notes. The Treasury 10-year notes fall for third straight day as Greece concerns ease, and then inflation in India may quicken on forecasts for deficient monsoon rainfall. And let's go here, and don't forget there's always weather modification and redistributing basically precipitation. So you have droughts in other places and just loads of rain in other, and of course then you have what, El Nino and El Nino right now. So 1/3 of U.S. workers ready to quit. Employers could soon see a major slowdown in productivity, new research suggests. 32% of U.S. workers say they are seriously considering leaving their employers, according to a survey released Monday by Mercer LLC, a global consulting company. Mostly young workers, 40% of those employees aged 25 to 34, and 44% of those 24 and younger have 1 foot out the door, which is weird because you shouldn't have to really wait too long because they're just going to fire you. I'm just hearing that all the time. My sister was one candidate. They just let her go. The company, basically bought out another company on the cheap, and then, and then they just cut and fired all their high-paid, high-valued workers, and then brought in all these interns so they can basically work for almost free with no benefits or anything. And then same thing happened with my mom's friend now, one of her friends that has been working in the medical industry for 20-25 years, same company, and and she actually helped out the boss in that and got fired. So now she's without a job after 25 years, close to, getting closer to retirement, and that's just the way it is in this economy. So it says here, home resales fell in May, and sales of previously occupied homes in the U.S. fell in May to the lowest level in 6 months, indicating that the slumping housing sector was stuck in a deep funk during the crucial spring selling season. Then home sales, let me get that out of the way, home sales hit 6-month low as supply rises. Change in China hits U.S. purse. For more than a decade, starting in the early 90s, U.S. inflation declined as low-wage workers in China and other developing nations joined the global economy and produce a tide of cheap goods that wash onto the U.S. shores. Then we had the trend made American consumers feel better off by restraining the upward crawl of consumer prices. It says helped enable the Federal Reserve to fuel the U.S. economy with low interest rates. You can go on and read that. Looks like a pretty good article. Then we have emerging powers takeover speeds up. The global financial crisis will hasten an economic changing of the guard, putting China and India at the top of the world banking industry, according to new international consultancy, PricewaterhouseCoopers. And I have a little bit more on China. 40 signs the Chinese economy is beating the living daylights out of the U.S. economy. You go there and check that out because I'm not going to have time to get through all this. I usually like to go through mostly headlines and a little bit of brief overview, and I post most, if not all, the links unless I have just run out of room or I have technical issues, which does occur. But I encourage viewers to go through here and check out all the links in the video's description on YouTube. The first three, Chinese economy has grown 7 times faster than the U.S. economy has over the past decade. And according to the IMF, China will pass the U.S. and it will become the largest economy in the world in 2016. According to one prominent economist, the Chinese economy already has roughly the same amount of purchasing power as the U.S. economy does. And moving on here, China wants to construct a 50-square-mile self-sustaining city south of Boise, Idaho. And then moving on here, we have China stakes claim to South Texas oil and gas. And there's more news on that. They're always doing stuff like that. They have companies in Chicago. Then we have anti-austerity protests spread across Europe. And so the rallies have been held in all across Europe. And then we move down here to Spanish. Spanish protesters launched anti-austerity measures. Spain's indignant activists launched Monday protest marches culminating in major Madrid. And it says here, seething over destruction of millions of jobs, welfare cuts, and corruption. The first of these 3 nationwide marches set off from eastern Spain's Mediterranean city of Valencia. And I was just with my relatives. I'd like to speak with this later if I have more time. And they're all saying, oh yeah, oh screw them, they want to retire at 60 and they want all this and there's no money for it. And, I just have to bite my tongue, and that's the hard thing about all this stuff, guys. It's like, it's so hard, It's like South Park. Everything just turns into shit. Everybody that talks, all my relatives and that, there's just shit coming out of their mouth. And so I just sit silent. I don't say anything. Because if I do, then I'm a bummer. I'm a downer. And trust me, they'll tell you. They'll let you know if you are. But yeah, that's what they said. No mention of the bankers basically robbing people blind and all of this crony capitalism. And and fraud that's been going on. No mention of that. Just, have austerity measures. Take it, deal with it. I'm so sick of hearing, and they're mostly men over the age of 40, and they're just such fascist neocons, dude. They love this corporatist system. Please join me in part 2. This is GGN, and I'm Darko. Thank you.